Morning, Erwin.
Good morning, good morning.
Mr. Theodore Spar, put your microphone on. Oh, nothing. No microphone, no nothing. We're getting ready for next week, 2 days.
Well, check it to have it the next, it's time for the next volume.
Yeah, that's what I just said. You're looking for it, right?
Yeah, it's right there, yeah. Yep, make sure it's there.
All
Okay.
I know is the email was confusing. Until he called me and said, oh, Wednesday and Thursday we'll do 8 o'clock to make up for no Friday. I didn't know that.
When is this car parade anyway?
Oh, I don't have no idea.
Oh,
Oh, it was advertised somewhere in the
somewhere, yeah.
in the bulletin somewhere. I don't know.
I saw, but I didn't see a time anywhere.
It's not. It's I don't know. You ride up to the shul and you wave to the building or something, and that's it. I think that's all it is. It's not even go. I thought it would go into the various associations. No, I don't know.
You should go past first service over there. It's not that far away, the office.
Right.
And just, don't let them think we're upset about things that we're driving by.
Or ride past Sen West. Go past the clubhouse.
Past the clubhouse, yeah.
Morning, Bob.
Morning, Harvey. Morning, Erwin.
Good morning, Bob.
Morning, Teddy. Although Teddy can't hear me.
No, Teddy's probably getting his coffee.
Oh, okay.
So he put off the microphone. He shuts the camera.
I'm listening to you.
Oh, sneaky.
What we have to, wait a minute.
Yeah, let me hear this one.
We have the privilege this morning to come across two of you. Only time in the whole 7.5 years of Daf is my name in there.
Oh.
So the guys in Lawrence who I used to be have the Daf with, I don't know, 10 years ago before I came down here full time. They still remember it, so they just called me this morning.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Name recognition. Name dropping.
Name dropping, that's it. Took a while, but Tovia is there. Somebody, Ben Tovia.
Okay.
Let me shut them off.
So, but I'm going to think of two examples where you're not dying because you want.
Somebody tell Rabbi Green we were starting early?
Yeah, I was about to say, he remembered. Oh, I know what it is. Larry Fish probably has the host again.
And you didn't give it over.
Well, he's not even on. He comes on with that the symbol for the shul, the Torah symbol.
And did he get the memo?
Maybe not. Oh, there he is. I'll let you know if he's going to be there.
Yesterday we had a Kenneth and a Rabbi Green, two separate ones.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Microphone on. Okay.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay, we will get underway. Our goal is, can we do 3 days of Gemara in 2 days? We'll try. That's all I can tell you, all right? Okay, guys, thank you for cooperating and being willing to do this. Okay, we are on Ayin Hay, is where we're picking up, where we left off, about 5 or 6 lines. Right, about 6 lines down.
I pointed out that we just passed Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia.
Tuvia, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so that's me. It's the
That's
only
right.
time we find that Tuvia in here.
Okay, right. Okay, so I'm going to go back to starting there, because what happens is the Gemara is citing for us 3 statements that Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia makes, and then they begin to discuss each of them somewhat in detail, and then afterwards the Gemara will go back to talking about the different Avot Malacha. Okay? So again, going back, actually the second line on Ayin Hay. Amar Rav Zutra, this is Rav Zutra Bar Turia, Amar Rav, the name of Rav. Hamotach chut shel tfira, one who tightens, okay, a thread on a seam on Shabbat, okay, is liable for chayav chatat, to bring a chatas. Second, v'halomei davar echad min hamugash, one who learns something from a Persian priest, okay, chayav mitah, is subject to it, worthy of the death penalty. V'hayodea lechashev tkufot mazalot, and one who knows how to calculate the seasons and the constellations, ve'eno choshev, and does not do so, okay, asur lesaper imenu, it's one should not hold conversations with him, okay? All right, let's go now to where we start off. Migushta, what do we mean when we say the Magi, the Persian priests? Rav Shmuel, says Rav and Shmuel, Chad Amar Choshe. One said one doesn't have learned from them because of sorcery. But Chad Amar Gedufe. And the other said one doesn't learn from them because they're blasphemy, because they believe in 2 gods, all right, not 1 God. Okay. Testayim, the Rav de Amar Gedufe. You might conclude that it was Rav who said because of blasphemy, the Amar Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia, as Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia says, Amar Rav in the name of Rav, Halomei davar echad min hamagush, one who learns something from a Persian priest, chayav mitah, it should be considered subject to the death penalty. The isal gadatach charshe, because if you would have thought that it was Rav who said it was magic, sorcery, witchcraft, hakativ, isn't it written in the Torah, lo tilmeid la'asot, aval atalomed lahavin laharot. Okay, you're not supposed to learn how to do it. Okay, but a sage from the rabbis is supposed to know how to understand and how to, you might say the word teach here, but it really means comprehend, instruct. In other words, they should know enough about it so that if somebody is brought before the Beis Din on charges of sorcery or witchcraft, they should be able to determine whether that's valid or not. Okay, tistayim. So you should conclude. Okay, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Mishum Bar Kapara, in the name of Bar Kapara. Okay? To this third item that Rav Zutra Bar Tuvia said. about calculating the seasons and the constellations. Kol hayodea l'chashev tkufot umazalot, whoever knows how to calculate the seasons and the constellations, right? Ve'eno choshev alav, and doesn't do so, doesn't carry this out, right? Hakatuv Omer, according to scripture, we might say the following, or apply the following pasuk to him: Ve'et po'el Hashem lo yabitu u'ma'aseh yadav lo ra'u. Okay, a pasuk, but they regard not the work of Hashem, neither have they considered the operation of his hands. In other words, by not doing so, okay, he doesn't reflect the idea that Hashem is the creator of heaven and earth, of time, things like that. So he's not doing something that brings praise to Hashem, particularly in the towards presenting it to other nations, to other peoples. Amar Rab Shmuel Bar Nachmani, and Rab Shmuel Bar Nachmani says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, okay, Minayan shemitzvah al ha'adam l'chashev tkufot u'mazalot. How do we know that it is commendable, a person's duty, to calculate these seasons and these constellations if they know how to do so, right? Shnei Amar, as it says in the pasuk, again, the following: Ushmartem va'asitem ki hi chachmatchem uvinatchem le'enei ha'amim. Okay, because the pasuk says, "For this is your wisdom and understanding in the sight of the peoples," and the Gemara says, "Eizu chachma uvina shehi le'enei ha'amim." What is it that shows wisdom and understanding in the sight of the peoples? In other words, how is it possible that that the non-Jews would understand that there was a creator, etc., etc.? Right? The answer is Havei Omer Ze Hayishuv Tkufot Umazalot. Okay? Because they understand the science of seasons, planets, things like that, constellations. Okay, let's come back now to the various avot malacha. Remember, all of these were dealing with behaviors that were done on Shabbat, okay, and for which one is over on B'shogeg to bring a chatas. Excuse me. Tanu Rabbanan, Hatzad Tzvi V'Gomer, right? One who captures a deer was a phrase in the Mishnah. Tanu Rabbanan, the following Braita. Hatzad Chilazon V'Hapotza'o, one who captures a chilazon, okay? Remember, chilazon is considered a certain kind of, I don't want to call it crustacea, but shell, okay? Animal living in a conch kind of shell, okay? V'hapotza'o, and one who crushes it, right? Eino chayav ela echad, is only, according to this Braita, and does so on Shabbat, is guilty, okay, of bringing one sin offering. Rabbi Yehuda Omer chayav shtayim. Rabbi Yehuda says he is obligated to bring two chataos, one for trapping and one for threshing. Shaya Rabbi Yehuda Omer p'tzia b'klal disha, because he said that crushing the shell is also a part of threshing. Amrulo, so they said to him, Ein p'tzia b'klal disha. The other sages disagreed, okay? And they said crushing doesn't come under the of melacha, of threshing. Amar Rava, says Rava, mai tama de Rabbanan. What was the reasoning of the rabbis that they said that, right, that's the case, right? Kasavre ein deisha ela legedule karka. But because they felt that there was no threshing except for things that grew from the ground. L'chayev nami mishum netilat neshama. But it is possible to say that person hunting the chila zone could be guilty under another element, which is the taking of a life. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan then says, Shepatz omet. But what if it was a situation that he crushed the shell when the animal was already dead? Okay? In that case, you would still use the, let's call it the blood, from the animal for the purpose of dye. Okay? Rabba Amar, afilu tema shepatza'o chai. Okay? Even if you say that he crushed it while it was still alive. Why? Okay? Mit'asek hu eitzel netilat neshama. Why? Because we say there that the taking of the life of the animal was incidental, was not the intended purpose. Okay? And so therefore, if that's the case, how can we claim that it would be chayav in that situation? Okay? Vaha Abai Varava. But says the Gemara, what about the fact that both Abai and Rava say the following? The Amrei Travaihu, Modeh Rabbi Shimon, the Psik Resha, Velo Yamut. But however, Abai and Rava both agree that Rabbi Shimon does accept the view of Psik Resha, namely that when one does a certain act and it has even non-intended results, the person could still very well be obligated, right? Psik Resha, right? So the Gemara says, Shani Hacha, de Kama de It Be Neshama Tfei Nechale. No, in this case, it's different. Why? Because it's better, okay, that they squeeze the animal while it's still alive, because then what happens? Dilatzil tzive, because the dye then becomes a clearer. The death is unintentional, and it's not what really the person desired. They want to squeeze the animal while it was still alive because the dye then becomes a better quality, okay, in that case. All right, let's go on to the next example from the Mishnah. V'hashochto, and one who slaughters it, right? Shochet mishum mai chayev, asks the Gemara, when he slaughters it. On what basis do we say that he is guilty? Right? Rav Amar mishum tzoveya. Rav says because of the issue of dyeing, getting the dye from the animal. Namely, the blood gushes forth from the throat, and therefore, okay, it produces the dye, and therefore that's the reason that he is chayav. U'shmuel Amar mishum netilat neshama. But Shmuel says it's based on the taking of the life. Now let's go over. Said along Amud here, mishum soveya in mishum netilat yadayim netilat neshama lo. One would say that one is obligated because of dying, yes, okay, producing the dye, but because of taking a life, no. Ema af mishum soveya. I would therefore say, on top of that, in addition, how much more so also because of the dying. Amar Rav, says Rav, Milta da Amre, Ema bat Milta. On this thing, he says, I want to say something else, another thing. Delo litu dare batrai. Okay? Because so that those who come after me, velich kualai, so that they won't mock me. Okay? So vea, okay, in terms of the dying, okay, what do we mean here? Okay, namely, b'mai nechale, what benefit? Why is it pleasing to him? Necha deli tavus. Okay, why? Because what happens is that he will then take the animal and it will be covered with this dye, Beit Hashchita Dama. In other words, the place where the slaughtering of the animal took place would have this dye on it. Ki heicha de lecha zuha inshe, so that when people will see it, they'll know where the individual slaughtered the animal. Velaitu, they'll come. Veliz beno mine, and then they'll buy it, the food, they'll buy it from him. Okay? Because when people see where it was properly shechted, they'll say, oh, okay, he's a better shochet, or he has better quality meat, and therefore we'll buy it from him. Okay? Next section from the Mishnah. Vahamolcho vahamaabdo. Okay, that was salting and then working or tanning the hide. So the Gemara says to us there, Hainu molech, v'hainu ma'abed. Okay, here we have salting, and here we have tanning. Aren't they really the same kind of thing? Rabbi Yochanan v'Reish Lakish Amrei Travayu. That Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish both say the same thing. Okay, what are they saying? Afik chad minayu va'ayil shirtut. He says, remove one of these, in other words, either the salting or the tanning, and instead they said, add sirtut, drafting. Okay, what do we mean by drafting here? We actually mean, okay, that we have a situation where he is drawing lines on the leather, okay? Remember when they make a Sefer Torah, okay, one of the acts is that the sofer has to actually sort of draw or cut lines into the underside of the hide to be able to write on it. So that's what they mean by sirtut. Amar Rava bar Bahuna, says Rava bar Bahuna, in this situation, Hai man the malich bisra. Okay, what is the fact that he is actually salting the meat for the purpose of tanning, and he's doing so on Shabbat. Chayav mishum ma'abed. Then he is guilty because of working, tanning the hide. Rava Amar, says Rava, ein ibud ba'ochlin. But says Rava, there is no requirement for curing, if you will, for salting the meat, okay, regarding foods. Amar Rav Ashi, va'afilu Rabba bar Huna, lo amar ela dekabai le orcha. So Rav Ashi says, as well as Rava bar Huna, that when they were talking about salting the meat, they were talking about going on a journey. In other words, that he was doing it to basically to preserve the meat, okay, which is somewhat similar to tanning, but it's still going to be done to keep the meat for eating purposes. Aval lebeta lo mishave inish michle eitz. Okay, but in other words, when he needs it for home, okay, for so to speak, sooner eating it. It's not such that a person is going to make his food into something that is as hard as wood. Okay? In other words, the salting of the meat is going to preserve it, but it makes it very hard, able to take on a journey, but not for early eating. Okay. Next piece from our Mishnah, V'hamamchako v'hamechatcho. Okay, we're talking about somebody who is scraping or smoothing it and then cutting it. Okay, what happens? Amar Rabbi Acha Bar Chanina. He says as follows. Okay, Hashaf bein ha'amudim, one who rubs the hide between pillars. Okay, think of Roman times, right? Okay, pillars of the building, and they either stretch the hide between, tie it to two pillars to rub it down, or they rub the hide against the pillar to smooth it. On Shabbat, chayav mishum memachek. He is obligated, he's guilty then because of the idea of, again, smoothing it, right? Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, says Rabbi Chia bar Abba, the following, Shlosha dvarim sachli Rav Ashi mishmei de Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. There were three things that Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi told me, okay, right? Rav Ashi told me in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Number one, Hamegarer Roshei Klunasot. Okay? Okay, one who smooths down or planes beams. B'Shabbat Chayav Mishum Mechatech. Okay? That is the first example. He is obligated because of a chayav of smoothing. The second, okay, hamimarech ritiyah b'Shabbat. Okay, the second example is one who sort of spreads a bandage, okay, over a sore on Shabbat. Chayav mishum memachek. Again, that's another example. And the third, right? V'hamisatet et ha'even b'Shabbat. Okay, and this is one who, I use the word chisels stone. Okay, in other words, because they're smoothing out the stone on b'Shabbat, on Shabbat, chayav mishum makeh b'patish. Okay, that, in that case, he is over again on the makeh b'patish av melacha, of finishing work, bringing something to its final conclusion of preparation. Okay? A new piece. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Kisma. It says as follows, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, in the name of Reish Lakish, right? Hatzar Tsura Bikli, one who fashions a figure in an earthenware vessel. Vahan menapeach bekli zuchuchit, okay, or one who blows glass, all right, into a glass figure, a glass utensil. Chayav mishum makeh b'patish. Also is over on transgresses this makeh b'patish av melacha, because what they're doing is they're finishing, completing the utensil's production. Okay, in that case. Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, Haiman deshakil akufe miglime. Okay, if it says Rav Yehuda, one who removes threads from a garment or a cloak. Okay, Chayav mishum makeh b'patish. Also, he says, that one is over because, again, it's as if he's finishing the garment. Okay? V'hani mili takapid alayhu. And all of these examples, he says, are a situation when one is strict about it. Okay, when one objects to having, let's say, these threads on the garment that it shows. Okay. Now back to our Mishnah, again, another one of the Av Malachot. V'hakotev shtei otiot, and one who writes two letters. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita. Okay? Katav od echad gedola, v'yesh b'mkoma l'chtov shtayim. If he wrote one large letter in a place that's enough room for two, okay, what happens? Patur, he is exempt. Machak ot gedola, if he erases a large letter, v'yesh b'mkoma l'chtov shtayim, and in that same place there's enough room to write two letters, chayav, he's guilty. Okay, why the difference? Let's see if the Gemara tells us. Amar Rabbi Menachem b'Rebbi Yossi, v'zeh chomer b'mochek mi b'kotei. And this is the stringency of erasing over that of writing. Because even though you erased only one letter, that's still over on erasing. Whereas to be over on the writing, it has to be two letters. Okay,
Is
going on.
this writing on the Torah?
Regard on Shabbat.
Oh, on Shabbat period. Okay.
On Shabbat period of any kind. Okay? Remember we had the example earlier that the question is if you had to say the name Shimon and you only wrote the two letters Shin Mem, okay, you'd be over because that's two letters. Right? Okay. Habone, back to now our Mishnah. The next examples of Av Malachot. Okay? As follows. Habone, regarding one who builds. Vahasoter, one who destroys or pulls down. Vahamechabeh, one who extinguishes. Vahamavir, and one who kindles, okay, lights a fire, right? Vahamakeh b'patish, and one who strikes something with a hammer. Rava v'Rabbi Zera, the two of them, da'amrei travaihu, as the two of them say, kol midei de'itbe gemar malacha, anything that has some sort of finishing of work, chayav mishum makeh b'patish, is guilty then, is held liable as if they were striking with a hammer. Okay? In other words, the implication is clear that here they have finished the work on that utensil and it comes to its conclusion. Now, our Mishnah then went on. Eila avot melachot. These are the primary categories of work. Right? Elu, these, la'afuke mid Rabbi Eliezer, to exclude the view of Rabbi Eliezer. De mechayev al toleda b'makom av. Why? Because Rabbi Eliezer has the opinion that you impose the liability on the person, okay, when a toleda is done only along with the av malacha. That's when he says one is chayav. Okay? Chaser achat, we say that they're lacking one. In other words, 40 minus 1. Right? Why is it phrased that way? La'afuki mid Rabbi Yehuda, to exclude the view of Rabbi Yehuda. the Tanya for Rabbi Yehuda taught, okay, the following, right? Mosif et hashovet v'hamedaktek, okay? That Rabbi Yehuda said that what happened? If that if you have threads, okay, and you close up the threads, okay, or also if you're doing something with on the loom and you're beating the loom, okay, what we sort of mean by that is you're evening out the threads on the loom, right? Amrulo, they said to him, Shovet harehi bichlal misach, okay? That closing it up, the web, the hole, is like stretching the threads, okay? Medaktek, and if you say beating it on the loom, right? Harehu bichlal oreg, the stretching, that is considered like under the subcategory, the category of the Av Melacha of oreg, of weaving, okay? And therefore that's where it would be forbidden. Okay, we now come to a new Mishnah, all right? And on this new Mishnah, we're going to see that, again, we're still dealing with this issue of bringing something on Shabbat into a prohibited domain. Okay? So the Mishnah now is going to tell us, okay, what's the purpose in doing this? Okay? And under what circumstances would one be then held liable? Matnitin. Our Mishnah says, Va'od klal acher amru. And the rabbi stated another general principle as follows. Kol hakasher lahatzniya. Anything that is suitable, okay, lahatzniya, if it's worthwhile to be stored for future use. Umatznein kamohu. And they put away something that's similar to it. Vahotzio b'Shabbat, and they take it out on Shabbat, carrying it into a prohibited domain. Chayav chatat alav, that one then is obligated to bring a chatas. V'chol she'eino kasher lahatzniya, but anything that is not suitable or fit to be stored away for future use, right? Or like it, Bahotzio b'Shabbat, and they took it out and carried it out on Shabbat. Eino chayav ela hamatznio. In that case, okay, it's not the person who took it out that would be obligated to bring a chatas. Only the person who stored it would be chayav the chatas. Okay? All right. Now, what does the Gemara want to ask at the outset? It said, Kol hakasher lahatzniya, anything that is fit or suitable to be stored away for future use. La'afuke mai, to exclude what? Asks the Gemara. Rav Papa Amar, la'afuke dam nida, to exclude blood of a woman's menstruation. Mar Ukva Amar, says Mar Ukva, la'afuke atse ashera. It says to exclude wood that comes from a tree that was worshipped as an idol. Okay. Man da Amar dam nida, the one who says to exclude menstruation blood. Kol shekain atse ashera. How much more so would he exclude wood from an idol worshipped tree. The tree was worshipped as an idol. Man da amar atse asherah. However, the one who says to exclude the wood from a tree, aval dam nida matznah le l'shonra. But he could argue, so to speak, that the menstruation blood would be suitable to feed a cat. Okay? Ve'idach, and the other one argues, kevan dechalsha lo matznaya le. Okay, since we say in this case that the animal that might not eat this blood, but more so because a person might become weak, one wouldn't necessarily store that kind of item. Right? Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, hi, delo Rabbi Shimon. He says this does not agree with the view of Rabbi Shimon. De'i Rabbi Shimon, ha'amar lo amru kol hashiurin halalu ela lamatzni iyeh. Okay, why? Because Rabbi Shimon held the opinion that all of these standards, all of these measurements that we're discussing, okay, only apply to situations where the person, okay, who actually stores it, and not to the person whatsoever who would take it out. Okay? V'kol she'eno kasher lahatzniya. Okay? And furthermore, the Gemara says, and those things that are not suitable to be stored. Okay? Let's go on a bit to Ayin Vav. Okay? Right. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Says Rabbi Elazar, Deloka Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. He says this is also not like the view of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Right? The Tanya who taught Klal Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, because he taught a general rule, Kol she'eno kasher lahatzniya, anything that is not fit or appropriate to be stored. Ve'ein matzne'in kamahu, and we don't generally store something away similar to it. Ve'huchshar lezeh v'hetzni'o, but it is suitable for the person who would take it out. Okay. Uba acher v'hotzio, and along comes a different person and takes it and removes it. Nitchayev zeh b'machshava shel zeh. Okay, that this one who takes it out is held responsible, guilty, right, based on the intent of the former person. Okay, so what we're seeing here, okay, is that even since there was an intent to store something by person X, okay, since Y can take it out and still use it and benefit from it and does so on Shabbat, Y is the one who in that case is Chayav. Okay. We'll go on a bit more, right? And continue, right, with the next, at least start the next Mishnah and a little bit. Okay. We're still dealing now with the whole question of measurements, right? And so, and we're still dealing with a situation where if that item is taken on Shabbat into a different domain, okay? We're not talking, we're of course talking from Rishus Yachid to Rabim, or Rabim to Yachid. Not necessarily, it would appear, into a Carmelite, okay? A neutral area. So how much is the measure that says is the amount that would make somebody obligated to bring a chatat? Okay. With foodstuffs, we saw the general measurement, the general minimum shiur was a kigogeret, right? The bulk of a fig. We're going to see now in the next Mishnah that there's a whole variety of other measurements that the Gemara is going to tell us about. Where, let's say you have an animal, and that animal has a certain amount of food in its mouth, okay? And it goes into another domain, okay? Is the owner of that animal going to be held responsible, okay, for that situation? Okay? All right. Now, okay, let's assume for the moment that even if he doesn't bring the animal, but he carries that amount, right? Is he chayav? Matnitin, our Mishnah teaches, okay? Hamotzi teven kimelo pi para. One who carries out, right, the measure of enough straw to fill the mouth of a cow. Okay? That's a measurement. Second, eitzah kimelo pi gamal. Or let's say another example, that it's eitzah, which some want to translate as stalks of peas, okay, to fill the mouth of a camel. Amir, kimlo pi tle, or let's say it's ears of grain or herbs, okay, to fill the mouth of a goat. Okay, asavim, kimlo pi gedi, or let's say it's grass. Okay, I'm sorry, kimlo pi tle, okay, right, a goat. Asavim kimlo pi gedi, grasses to fill the mouth of a lamb. Alei shum va'alei betsalim lachim kigrogeret. Okay, wet leaves of garlic or of onion. Okay, it's enough for it to be the dried fig bulk. Yaveshin, or if these leaves of garlic or onion are dry, right? Kimelo pi gedi, to fill the mouth again of a lamb. Ve'ein mitztarfin ze im ze, and one, they don't combine one with the other. Mipnei shelo shavu b'shi'ureihin, because they're not alike in their measurement. They're all different measures, all different minimum requirements. Now, what does the Gemara say? First of all, it asks a question. Mai eitzah. What is this second example of eitzah that would be enough to fill the mouth of a camel? What is this material? Amar Rav Yehuda. Says Rav Yehuda, Teven Shelmine Kitni. Okay? It's a kind of straw similar to that of certain legumes, of certain peas, for example. Ki ata Rav Dimi, and when Rav Dimi came, right? Amar, he said, Hamotzi Teven Kimelo Pi Para Legamal. He asks the following question. Okay, what about a situation where one carries out the equivalent of a mouthful of straw, that would be for a cow, but he does so for a camel. Okay? Would the person be chayav? Okay? Apparently the size of a camel's mouth is different than the size of a cow's mouth. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan Amar chayav. Rabbi Yochanan says he is guilty. Reish Lakish, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amar patur, says he exempt. Now, what happens, says the Gemara? Ba'orchata. And the evening, right? Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. That's how he ruled. The Tzafra, in the next morning, however, Hadarbe. Rabbi Yochanan recanted his decision. Amar Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef says, Shapir Avad, it was appropriate. He did well, right? The Hadar that he retracted, right? The Ha lo chaze legamal, because that is not sufficient, okay, for a camel. In other words, the amount of food that a cow has is not equal to what it would be for a camel. Amar Abaye, and the Abaye, however, says to Rav Yosef, Adraba, just the opposite. Kedami Ikara Mistabra, right? Logic supports, okay, the original view, namely that if you're saying it's sufficient for a cow, then that's an adequate measurement in order to say that the person should be chayav, because it fulfills one of the requirements of the Mishnah as an appropriate measurement. Okay? Daha chazi leila para, because it is suitable for a cow. Ela ki ata Ravi, however, when Ravin came, Amar hamotzi teven kimlo pi para legamal, who says that when one carries out again on Shabbat the measurement of a cow's mouthful of straw for a camel, the kuli alma lo plige dechayev. Nobody disagrees. They all agree, okay, that he is guilty. Ki plige, where do they disagree? B'motzi eitza kimlo pi para la para. Okay, it's when he person brings out the mouthful of the legume, of the peas, okay, measuring that of a cow for a cow. Okay? And now the Gemara says, Ve'ipcha itma. But it seems the reverse was stated. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Patur. That in that case, Rabbi Yochanan would say he's not guilty. Reish Lakish Amar Chayav. And Reish Lakish would say he is guilty. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Patur says that he's not. Achila al yedei hadochak lo shma achila. That in this case we say he's not guilty because eating as a result of a, let's say, forced situation, a pressing need. In other words, maybe that was all the amount of animal food that he had, lo shma achila, but that's not really considered eating. Reish Lakish Amar, and Reish Lakish says, chayav, that he's guilty, achila al yedei hadochak shma achila, that eating, okay, even under pressing circumstances, so to speak, a pressing need is still considered to be eating, okay? And I think we'll stop there, right, for today, okay, which gives us about 2/3 of the way on Ayin Vav, okay? since Ayin Vav Amud Beis is not too long, we should be able tomorrow to, unless you want me to continue a little bit more, guys, because we're still going to try to get to Ayin Zion. Should we continue for another few minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. All right. Okie doke. Okay. We now get to the second part of the Mishnah. Amir Kimelo Pi Hatle. All right. So we said that referred to ears of grain or herbs equal to a mouthful for a tle, right? For a goat. Right? Vahatanya Kigro Geret. But didn't we teach, says the Gemara, that it was the bulk fig measurement? Ide ve'ide chad shi'urahu. This one and this one, says the Gemara, is the same measurement, the same standard. Okay, back again to our Mishnah. Remember, it said in regard to garlic leaves or onion leaves, depending upon whether they were moist or whether they were dry. Alei shum va'alei b'tselim lachim. Okay, if leaves of garlic or leaves of onion are moist, kigro geret, the measurement is the big bulk fig, dried fig, v'yaveshim, and if they're dry, kimlo pi hagadi. Okay, and that is the mouthful of the lamb. Ve'ein mitztarfin zeh im zeh, and one cannot be joined with the other, b'pnei shelo shavu b'shi'ureihin, because they're not equal in their measurement, in their standards. And now Rabbi Yossi, says Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, ein mitztarfin lechamor shebahem. We don't join the more stringent one to them. Aval mitztarfin lekal shebahem, but we can join the less stringent for them. Now the Koren explained it this way: substances with more lenient legal status and greater measure of liability do not join with substances of more stringent with a smaller measure of liability. Okay? The kol de lo shavu b'shi'uraihu, and those that aren't equal in their measurement, mi mitztarfin, do we say that they can even join together? Vahatnan, but isn't it taught elsewhere in another measure, Mishnah? Habeged shalosh al shalosh, a garment, minimum measurement for a garment, for it to become susceptible to tuma, okay, is 3 by 3. Vahasak, arba al arba, and a piece of sackcloth to be considered susceptible to tuma as a garment is measured 4 by 4. Vahaor, chamesh al chamesh, and again, something of leather, okay? 5 by 5. Mapats, and a reed mat, even though it's not a garment, for it to become susceptible to tuma, okay? Sheish al sheish, it's got to be 6 by 6. Vatani Allah, okay? And about this, it was taught the following, Braita, Habeged vehasak, okay? Namely the garment, okay, and the piece of sackcloth. Hasak vahaor, a piece of sackcloth, and a piece of leather. Ha'or v'hamapatz, okay? The piece of leather and the mat, okay? Mitztarfin ze im ze. Their measurements could join together to be susceptible for tumor. V'amar Rabbi Shimon matam. And Rabbi Shimon says, what is the reasoning? Okay. Mepnei sheru'uyin l'tamei moshav. Because they are susceptible to the tumor of sitting, of moshav. In other words, if a zav sits on them, if they're pieced together, okay, one could, the zav will render both parts, the whole entire thing, tamei. Tama de re'uyim l'tamei moshav. Right? The reason being is that they are liable to the tumor of moshav, of being susceptible. Okay? They have that, a common fact. They could be used for a saddle or something else, or for sitting. Therefore, they have that common factor. Therefore, they can combine. All right? Aval ein ra'ui l'tamei moshav lo. But if they're not liable to that common factor of, right, they're not the case. Amar Rava, says Rava, Acha nami chazia l'dugma. Here too, therefore, they're also common because they could be used for a sample of clothes for a merchant. And let's say we'll stop there. Okay? All right, so
Tomorrow, what time tomorrow?
we'll start at 8 o'clock again tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
Thank
right,
you.
guys?
Thank you,
All
Robert.
right.
I agree.
Very good. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Everyone have a good day.
Dude, better get another 3 out.